Preview.
What's up, TV? So I wanted to make this video this week because I'm focusing a lot on intuitive eating this week, and I'm going to put out some content for you guys with tips, tangible tips that you can take away to stop tracking and obsessing over your food and transition more towards intuitive eating. So I stopped tracking macros about 2 years ago. So my last competition was about 2 years ago. From that point, I guess it was probably like a year. After I stopped competing, I took about like a 2 or 3 month period where I tried to stay keto because I was going on vacation. I had been keto for like 10 weeks for that prep. And I was really nervous to start eating carbs again because I just knew that my body was going to freak out. And I knew that if I was going on this vacation, it was just going to be horrendous for me. So pretty much I stayed keto. I tried to eat really high fat, tried to kind of like wean off my cardio, wean off the really restrictive dieting and overtraining that I was doing for that prep. And I just was holding on to so much water. My hormones were out of whack. Like my body was just all over the place. So after I got back from that vacation, that was when I decided, okay, you really need to do a reverse diet. That was the first time I had ever reverse dieted out of the 6 or 7 shows that I ever competed in. So I got a coach, I reverse dieted, and I got to a point, it was like 8 or 9 months into that reverse diet where I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like I wasn't really following her program anymore, her training program. I was counting the macros and I was following If It Fits Your Macros, but it just didn't feel right to me. Like I just had so many conflicting emotions about it. And I felt like, I would get a macro plan from her where, hey, these are your numbers. And I would get a separate plan from her that was like here's your sample meal prep day. And she was a great coach, like totally good. This was just my experience with If It Fits Your Macros. It was either I had to like plan my day out in the morning and know exactly how much I'd be eating with each meal, because if I didn't do that, then I'd get later on in the day and like have too many macros left or have not enough left, and it just didn't feel good. And you're probably like, okay, so you had too many macros, like that's a great thing, then you save all your carbs or save all your fats, right? But it didn't feel right for me. Like it didn't feel normal, and I didn't like getting to the end of the day knowing that like, hey, you didn't really eat enough during the day and now you have to eat it all now. So that was kind of what I was feeling when I was intuitively eating. And it got to a point like 8 or 9 months in from that reverse diet where I was just like, I just didn't like it that much anymore. And, I was going to Thailand, so I had a vacation coming up. And I had said to myself, like, I recognized that right before I left, that was the best I had ever felt. Like, that was the best I had felt since competing, after competing, and, like, the best I'd ever felt since, like, before I even started competing from those 3 or 4 years. So basically, I felt really good. And I talked to my coach before I left for Thailand, and I was like, I'm obviously not going to track there. Like, it was a 2-week vacation. So when I was there in Thailand, I didn't work out. I didn't work out at all, which was like, that's usually pretty hard for me. I didn't train at all. I was just active walking, and their food's a lot different there. And, I feel like sometimes when I'm on vacation, I've talked about this as well. When I'm on vacation, I definitely love to it's just easier for me to eat cleaner. It's easier for me to eat cleaner on vacation because I feel way more conscious and aware of the decisions that I'm making. So that was one of those trips for me. I was eating way higher fat. If you've ever been to Southeast Asia or Thailand, their food's a lot different. So it's like very much different spices, but there were way more carbs than what I would normally take in. And so I just decided that I wanted to do more higher fats and higher proteins. That's what always worked for my body anyway. So I wasn't eating any of the breads. I don't eat gluten. I don't eat grains. And when I came back, I just felt really, really good. Like my body was just so rested. My cortisol levels were down. And that was when I pulled the trigger on coaching. And I was like, I'm going to figure this shit out on my own. So, and when I had got back, I think I had still time left with my coach. So we were talking about kind of dropping some tracking days, like maybe not tracking on the weekends, and then maybe like not tracking on a Wednesday and stuff like that. So that was the kind of first step that I took, was going up for that vacation, and I think just like getting out of America and going to a third world country and just like really truly having it resonate that like your life is so much more than your body, and you're in this like third world country and you just came from this like really extreme dieting and tracking phase to like where you are now. And I just knew that like it just wasn't right for me. So like I said, when I got back, I really made that decision and I started not to track. So I was doing more intuitive days and it worked really well. And I just kind of like threw in the towel at that point. And I want to just say that if you're somebody that's transitioning from tracking or from a really extreme, strict routine, you're gonna have this like conflicting conversation in your head where like you feel really good about intuitive eating and you feel really good with where you're at, like you know this is the right decision, but you're also feeling guilty for not being so extreme anymore. And I know I felt that so much within myself. I felt guilty because I felt like I wasn't being the best version of me if I didn't track every amount of food, if I didn't go to the gym all these days and like be super strict, because I felt like my body was a representation of how much dedication and work ethic I had. And so really pulling that plug for me and stepping away from that kind of eating style and training style was really hard because I felt like I wasn't doing what was best for me anymore. I didn't feel like I was operating at like a high performance level when really I was. It was just in a different way. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you because I know you're probably having a lot of those emotions and feelings right now, and I want you to just give yourself permission to not feel that way. Like give yourself permission to feel good in the decisions that you're making and trust yourself enough to get to where you want to be without being so extreme in your routine. So I'm gonna have a content piece. There will be a post up this week with like 5 tips on how to go from tracking to intuitive eating. But I wanted to just share with you guys that, like, you know, my experience from going from tracking to a more intuitive approach, it just felt so right to me because tracking didn't feel good to me. It felt like I had to always be either following the same meal plan every single day because I didn't want to waste time having to track, or I just felt, it just didn't feel free. I didn't get that free feeling that so many other people felt with it. And maybe your experience is different, but that was my experience. And I'm sure that there's so many of you guys out there that feel that exact same way. So intuitive eating really for me has just completely changed my life because it's made me able to connect deeper with my body and myself because I now am just way more intuitive of what feels good for me in the gym, in the kitchen, and then outside of that. And I think it all just comes full circle. It's, you know, when you're staying really boxed and really rigid in certain areas of your life, it kind of comes over to all these other things, right? Like when you're giving away your power by letting somebody choose what foods you eat for yourself every single day, when you give your power away to somebody that says, this is how many calories you need to eat at this time of day, this, you're giving away your power. You are giving away the power you have within yourself to make those survival decisions for yourself. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I'm just so against diets. I'm so against, you know, following a program because it is not realistic. So moving more towards why I don't believe in diets, they're just not realistic. They're not something that you can sustain. Diets, programs, tracking, all of that stuff is not something that you can actually take out into the real world and learn from. And there's definitely benefits to tracking. I mean, you know, you're getting to learn portion sizes, you're getting to understand different foods and what macros they have. But when it comes to actually going out and living in a free world with free food choices and just wanting to feel good in your body, it's not sustainable. And that's why with the Balanced Body Method, I actually teach you what works for your specific body, because that is the only way to do it. The only way to get from where you want to be to where you are is by actually learning what works for your body. And the thing with your human body is that your body is always changing. So what we figure out, like what you figure out for yourself worked 4 years ago isn't going to work right now. You're probably going to have to make some adjustments because your stress levels are different, your movement's different, like your lifestyle is different, right? Like those things are always changing. So when you're actually taught to figure out like to listen to your body, my dog almost just rolled off the bed. When you're actually taught to like learn what your body needs and how to get really in tune with what your body wants and what it needs from you, you don't need a program because you're going to be able to follow your body as your body grows and progresses. Like some days for me, I know I need more carbs. Other days for me, I know that's the last thing that I need. And it's not always because of how I'm training or because of this or this and this. It's just because I know that that's what my body's telling me and I can trust it because I've been working with my body for so long. So if you're somebody that wants to go from if it fits your macros to intuitive eating and you need some help or you're not really sure how to get started, let me know because the Balanced Body Method is definitely the program for you. You can send me a DM and saying info and I'll send you some information about the Balanced Body Method, and I'll catch you guys in the next IGTV video. Bye.